This presentation has two segments. We will discuss the Hastings County Land Records Collection, located at the Seventh Town Historical Society, Marilyn Adams Genealogical Research Center in Ameliasburg, Prince Edward County, and look at the history of a 175-year-old farm property in Huntingdon Township, Hastings County. It's been said that genealogy is the fastest growing pastime in North America today. Perhaps it's a logical extension for those who are interested in family history to also be interested in researching old buildings and local history. Old homes are an obvious choice for researchers. They have many chapters to explore, but newly erected buildings and vacant land may have an equally interesting history. Changes made to an existing structure may alter its appearance forever, and demolition may have erased the physical structure completely. But the owners of the property left a paper trail which just waits to be discovered. When people hear the term registry office, they think only of property records and deeds. But the office has actually registered all kinds of things. These drawers store paper records, which are called instruments. While most of the instruments are deeds or mortgages, there are also copies of wills, contracts, and agreements related to a specific property or properties. Crown patent returns for Hastings County are the oldest original documents in the land records collection. In some cases, the dates are before 1800. Crown documents were recorded using the legal description of the property at the time the property was sold by the Crown to the very first owner. In most cases, the patent was for 200-acre farm lots. Over time, the original lots may have been subdivided into smaller portions, and the original geographic township may have become part of a larger municipality. Every lot and concession has an abstract page where transactions for that particular property were recorded. The abstract record captures all information about a property from the original Crown patent. In urban areas, the records are more complex and involve plans and subdivisions. Looking at an abstract page for any property, the instrument number is in the far left-hand column. Next is the type of transaction, the date of the document, the date it was actually registered. This is important. Sometimes documents were not officially registered for many years. The next two columns you'll find the names of the parties involved. The next is the quantity of land and the value under consideration. In the last column are remarks. This may be a further description of the land or other pertinent details. For genealogy purposes, we make note of the names and research the instruments to gain an insight into not only the land holdings, but also community involvement or agreements between neighbors. In my opinion, when land was transferred by means of a will, you have struck the mother lode. Often you can learn not only names of spouses, but of children, their spouses, grandchildren, and other relationships of those who are witnesses, executors, or beneficiaries of an estate. The instrument will usually be signed by the parties involved, and the witnesses perhaps a lawyer, clerk, justice of the peace, or notary. It may be surprising to discover that an ancestor could not read or write, and this is evident when you see their signature on a legal document as an X. These documents are examples of releasing a wife's dower rights. Ontario ended the practice in 1978, but it is still in effect in some jurisdictions. Because a widow retained the right to live in the main house on the property after her husband's death and was entitled to 1/3 of profits from the late husband's lands, wives released their dower rights to allow any property sold by the husband to pass to the new owner, free of her potential future claims on the property. One of the most interesting abstract pages concerns property located in Sydney Township. The property owner is the deceased Captain John Walden Myers. At the time of his death, on November 22, 1821, at age 76, Captain John Myers was a very wealthy man. He had accumulated over 3,000 acres of land and was worth approximately £12,000. Conversion would equal approximately $1 million today. Most remarkable is the means in which all the heirs and devisees are named in full, wives and grandchildren, and the relations clearly spelled out. To a genealogist, this document is almost unbelievable. We see that Jacob Myers has 7 children. Son James is married to Mary Vandervoort. Allie Westfall is the wife of George. Catherine Orr is John's wife. And Peter Vandervoort is married to Leonard's daughter Mary, and she is clearly described as a granddaughter. John R. Bleecker is the eldest son of John Bleecker and is Captain Myers' grandson. This deed from 1871 is from Rawdon Township and concerns Sir Mackenzie Bowl and his wife Harriet. Mackenzie Bowl was the owner of the Belleville Intelligencer and served as MP for North Hastings riding. He was also Canada's 5th Prime Minister. We will look at how to utilize the records at Marilyn Adams Genealogical Research Center. Their records cover the period from just after Canadian Confederation in 1867 through 1959. Using the online land records database on the Marilyn Adams Genealogical Research Center website, you can access the post-1867 land records. There are at least 2 ways to find more information about individuals from the land records. A search for an individual's name may generate a list of properties in Hastings County they are associated with. The list can either be brought into the center or sent by email. The particular instruments are filed by townships, and they are original documents. Copies of the pre-Confederation instruments are available through Ontario Archives on Land Service Ontario and Family Search websites. Land petitions are at a Library at Archives Canada in Ottawa and are viewable online at their website. The website of Family Search, operated by the Church of Latter-day Saints, offers extensive microfilm collections of land records, abstracts, transcriptions of deeds, land use agreements, wills and probate, and township papers. In this video, I focus on the property at Part Lot 11, Concession 3, and the people who live there. This presentation begins with a land survey map of 1797 and ends in the year 1955. Although more recent records are available online, my intention is to share the in-house resources found at the Marilyn Adams Genealogical Research Center. On the survey map of 1797, we locate this property at Lot 11, Concession 3, Huntingdon Township. It is marked in red ink, Canada Company, and a letter D. Further noted elsewhere is said, there were in all the townships lots with the letter D written upon them. These, we are told, belonged to certain great estates of favored persons and deeded to them, and they were always the best lands, but they were taboo to the settler. The letter D in Canada Company was printed on the 1797 survey map to indicate the particular property at Lot 11, Concession 3, was reserved. The Crown issued a land grant patent when the petitioner proved they had cut trees to clear a roadway and had occupied the property for 2 years. This property was granted to Stephen Chisholm. Instrument A43, Canada Company to Stephen Gilbert Chisholm. Conveyance by deed, bearing the date 26 January in the year of our Lord 1835. In the city of Toronto. Attorneys for Canada Company. In the 6th year of the reign of His Majesty King George IV, in consideration of the sum of £97 and 10 shillings, lawful money of the province of Upper Canada, release to Stephen Gilbert Chisholm of Township of Huntingdon, Yeoman, certain parcel of land located at Lot 11, 3rd Concession of Huntingdon. Lot 11, Concession 3, consists of 200 acres in total. Stephen Chisholm sold 50 acres to Shubal Foster in 1836. The remaining 150 acres was purchased by Jonathan Clark in 1842. But in this project, we're focusing on the 50-acre farm. Taken from the original abstract page, which is fairly difficult to make out, we have superimposed the pertinent details for clarity. The first line shows the Crown granting 200 acres to Canada Company. The Canada Company was a British land development company intended to aid in the colonization of Upper Canada. The majority of land purchased by settlers was purchased through Canada Company. In 1835, Stephen Chisholm paid £97 to the Canada Company for the property. Shubal Foster paid Stephen Chisholm £12 for 50 acres in 1836. Shubal Foster emigrated from the United States as a young lad in 1810. He worked his way up from Kingston and eventually to Caniff Mills, where he worked for John Caniff and married his daughter Phoebe. They settled for a time in Sydney Township and made their way to Huntingdon. They had 11 children, 7 boys and 4 girls. Their daughter, Elizabeth Harriet, married Henry Ostrom. Harriet and Henry Ostrom had lived at Lot 12, Concession 2. He kept the store, which was on the northwest corner of the lot, and also the post office. Harriet and Henry Ostrom built the stone-dwelling house, but at the time only owned 1 acre. It's not known exactly when the house was built. Harriet's brother John was the contractor and builder of the house. The paper trail holds a clue. In 1843, Shubal Foster severed 1 acre from the southeast corner of his property for his daughter Harriet Ostrom, presumably to build a house. The Quinney branch of Architectural Conservancy visited Moira, and their tour notes indicate the house dated to 1845. Harriet and Henry Ostrom were the parents of 10 children, 9 daughters and 1 son. Henry served as postmaster of Moira from 1855 until his sudden, unexpected death in 1878. Their son Henry Jr. moved to the U.S., where he became an influential and renowned evangelist. One of the earliest instruments for Huntingdon Township at Seventh Town Historical Society is an agreement between the Moira Cheese Company and Henry Ostrom to provide the factory with water from a spring on his property. The agreement states that by no means should the water be used to manufacture malt or spirituous liquors. The source of the water is high on a hill and is gravity-fed to the house and barn. The spring continues to supply water to the property today. But the cheese factory is just a distant memory. Foster descendants lived and farmed this property for approximately 80 years. And often had large families. Their children married into other local families, such as Haight, Ketchison, Sills, Harity, Clapp, and Vanderwater, but especially Salisbury. At least 10 of the Foster's children married Salisburys. The farm property owned by Harriet and Henry Ostrom was bought and sold to her brothers and their descendants in various transactions up until the 1920s. In 1851, Shubal Foster's son John sold a half-acre from the corner of his farm for a consideration of £10 to the municipal council. Here he erected a plain stone structure to serve as a town hall. In 1878, Belden's atlas described Moira as pleasantly situated at the base of a large hill which shelters it from the west winds and is the most important village in the township. From the hilltops of Moira, a beautiful scenic view of surrounding countryside may be obtained. The village is situated in the southern portion of Huntingdon Township, about 14 miles north of Belleville. When James Foster died in 1901, his estate presented a few challenges for the executors. These documents detail the individuals and properties involved. The estate was finally settled in 1907. The properties were sold, including Lot 11, Concession 3, which was purchased by William Donnan. For the first time in almost 70 years, the farm had been sold outside of the Foster family. William Donnan and his wife, Emma Johnson, bought Lot 11, Concession 3, where they farmed and operated a harness shop. He sold the farm in 1914. They had 3 children, Mildred, Melville, and Hamilton, who were very well-known successful farmers in the Sterling area. William Dunnan ran the harness shop in Moira for 12 years and sold it in 1913 to Levi Rutter, who was also a harness maker. Mr. Rutter relocated the shop to Fuller around 1916 and sold the farm to Mr. Jarvis Fox. After 5 years, Jarvis and his wife sold the farm to Carmen Foster. Through the magic and wonder of social media and the Moira Facebook page, we acquired this photograph of Russell Foster through his daughter. Born in 1920, Russell was a fifth-generation Foster associated with the property. His parents were Carmen Foster and Evelyn Salisbury. His grandfather was John Foster. His great-grandfather was James, and his great-great-grandfather was Schubel. After 2 years, Carmen sold the property to Billa Salisbury. In 1925, Mellon and Annie Hazard acquired the property through a vesting order. They lived in Moira for 20 years. Their children were Wilfred, Evelyn, and Carrie. I've heard that Annie was a midwife who delivered many of the local babies. Wilfred married and moved to Belleville. Evelyn remained with her parents. It was surprising to discover another American evangelist had called this house home. Their daughter was Reverend Carrie Hazard, who founded the Moira Standard Church. She and her partner, Reverend Lois Richardson, moved to the United States and traveled extensively as missionaries. They also toured the U.S. and Canada as evangelical preachers. Carrie died in New Jersey at the age of 96. Our paper trail ends in 1955 for this property. There are 2 final entries. The 17th of February, 1947, Annie Hazard, widow, Carrie Hazard, Wilbur E. Hazard, and wife, sold the property to William Frederick Elliott and Blanche Elliott. The final entry is the deed issued the 2nd of March, 1955. William Frederick Elliott and Blanche Elliott, his wife, sold the property to Gerald W. Hall. In May of 1954, members of the Moira community gathered on this property and posed for a photographer from the Belleville Intelligencer. The members of the Moira Women's Institute were writing a book to commemorate the centennial of the Methodist Church. Built in 1854, the architect and builder of the church was John Canna Foster. In addition to the land records, the Moira Women's Institute book, Moira Past and Present, guided my research. Published in 1954, it served as a template and was a valuable resource in this project. It is also available at the Seventh Town Historical Society bookstore. In 1954, the Moira Women's Institute commemorated the first century of their church and community by writing the book Moira Past and Present. The church was built in 1854 by John Caniff Foster, and members of the community gathered on his former property where they posed for a photographer from the Belleville Intelligencer.